Hey kids, Miss Jess here. I hope you're having a great day so far, and I hope you're taking a minute to get outside today. Once you get done all your schoolwork and the things that you have to do, it's a really great idea to go outside and be in nature, even if it's just in your backyard or a small walk down the street. It just feels good to get some sun on your face, or maybe even some rain too, and to just feel nature outside. It's so important in times like these where we're home a lot. So I hope you get out to do it. When I'm out, I'll be thinking of you guys. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about feelings. This is what I like to think of as my feeling ribbon. And I love this ribbon because there's so many different colors in it. It's like a rainbow. And lots of times I think of this ribbon as feelings because the truth is, like a rainbow, all of our feelings play a really important role in making our life colorful and full and rich. Because the truth is, if we were never sad, we wouldn't really understand true joy. And if we were never anxious, we would never understand how great it is to feel relieved. And how wonderful is the feeling of excitement. So all of our different feelings have a place to make our life big and beautiful and bold and colorful. Sometimes though, one of them might want to take over. And what we want to do is we want to make sure we keep these feelings, so we keep these colors in place because we want to keep it nice and colorful. Sometimes when they take over, we're going to use the color blue today for sad and sadness. I love the color blue. The color blue happens to be my favorite color. And if I have a dress in this color, or maybe a shirt in this color, or a pair of sneakers, I'm totally happy. If my room were painted this color, I would be thrilled. As much as I love this color, when I think of it as sadness, I want to make sure that it doesn't overtake all of the other colors. Because what happens is when it takes all of the other colors up, it kind of chokes the rest of them. We want to make sure it doesn't take over and we keep it in its place. So sadness happens to be a really useful and important emotion and feeling to have. Because sadness, when we get sad, although it may not feel so great, sadness tells us kind of what's important to us. Sadness tells us how we feel about things. And it doesn't really matter what makes you sad. Whatever makes you sad is totally fine because everybody is different. Everybody sees the world differently and everybody is affected by things differently. The reason why we don't want sadness to take over, right? Because if it's an okay emotion to have, why do we try to get out of it? Why do we try to be happy? What happens is when sadness takes over, you start to see things differently. If you're sad for too long, it can really affect how you are in school, how you are in life, and how you see things. Being sad all the time is like looking at the world through a pair of sunglasses. Okay? I seem fine. I love my sunglasses. I have them on here. And although I can see everything clearly, I see things through a different colored lens. And if we're sad for too long, that's what happens. And it can affect our schoolwork, our relationships, and how we feel about ourselves. So even though everybody is sad sometimes, which is so much the truth, we want to make sure what we could do is get out of those sad feelings and not let them linger for too long. Because if they linger for too long, then we're going to find that we get ourselves depressed. And we don't want that to happen. So let's talk about how we can think about our sad feelings in a way that doesn't make them last for too long. One of the most important things to do when we're feeling sad and we want to feel better, believe it or not, is simply noticing that we're sad. Take a minute and instead of trying to feel better right away, which so many of us do, the first thing we do when we feel bad is want to try to feel better. And we try to distract ourselves. But it's really important to notice that we're sad and to give a little bit of thought as to why we might be feeling this way. Because if we understand why we're feeling this way, it'll be easier to feel better or to deal with those feelings. If we keep stuffing our feelings down and stuffing them down and stuffing them down and stuffing them down, they never really go away. Swallowing our feelings is almost kind of like swallowing an ice cube. If you swallowed an ice cube and didn't choke, and you swallowed an ice cube, does that ice cube get smaller? It just melts. And when that ice cube melts, it spreads even further. And that's what happens when we don't take time to think about why we're sad, or we don't speak up about why we're sad. It's so important to talk about those feelings and figure out why we're feeling them in the first place. Once we take a second and we figure out why we're feeling sad and why we're feeling a little out of sorts, then we can start thinking about positive ideas. We can start thinking about positive things. Well, what's the upside in my situation? Maybe my really good friend who I grew up with next door is moving, and I can't imagine living in my house without that friend next door. I can't believe they're moving. I'm so sad about that. But what's some of the positive things? Well, I got to enjoy the time that they lived here for quite a long time, and I have some wonderful memories. And when they move, maybe someone just as nice will move in and I'll make a new friend. We get a chance to think of solutions. What can we do to maybe fix the situation that's making us sad? So if our friend moved away, maybe we can FaceTime our friend. Maybe we can call them on the phone. And if they're moving someplace really cool, maybe we get to visit them. And that could be a great experience. So that's just an example of thinking positive and thinking solutions. After that, you might feel a little bit better. It's also a good idea to really talk about your sadness. Just like I was saying, we don't want to stuff our feelings down, so we want to get support. And support is just going to someone who we know cares about us and talking to them and letting them know what we're feeling. They may have a different way of looking at your situation that actually makes you feel better about it, a way you never thought of before. And so it's really great to talk to an adult or an older sibling or even a really good friend. Let them share their perspective with you. And if they have nothing, they've got no advice for you, sometimes a hug helps just as much. Sometimes that's all we need. One really big sadness buster is gratitude. Gratitude is being thankful for the things that we have, the people in our life. There are so many things we have to be grateful for. And I'm sure that if we were sitting in a classroom right now and I asked you to tell me a bunch of things you're grateful for, you'd have so many wonderful things because you're grateful kids. And you're happy to have a warm house to live in, people that love you, food on the table. There are so many simple pleasures that we take for granted. Even things like electricity and running water. Believe it or not everybody has those things. And the reason why it's good to practice gratitude is because gratitude is kind of like an umbrella. Okay? When it's raining outside and you have an umbrella, sometimes you still get wet, but you're a lot drier than if you didn't have one. Gratitude is like that umbrella for sadness. When sad feelings come your way or things are bothering you, when you have a practice of gratitude, it acts like an umbrella. You still might get wet, but you're not going to get drenched. You're not going to be so sad because it kind of balances things out. If these are my sad feelings that are really heavy and I have gratitude, gratitude balances that out, and it helps me to not feel so bad in the end. So what do you guys think about the idea of practicing gratitude? How do you practice gratitude? I mean, either you're thankful or you're not thankful, right? Not really. Sometimes we forget the things that we're grateful for because we're just so caught up in everyday life. We forget the little things like flicking a switch and turning on the light. We don't really think about the fact that some people don't have light or electricity because it's so normal for us. Or kind of like when I get annoyed if I run out of hot water. Some people don't have running water in their homes at all. And that might be nobody that either you and I know, but there are people in the world who don't have some of the simplest things that we take for granted every day. So what are some ways that we can remember those things? Gratitude becomes a practice. And sometimes you actually have to do things in order to grow your gratitude. So for example, one of the things you can do is make it a point that every time you wake up in the morning, you think of 3 things that you're really grateful for. I know in the morning when I open my eyes and I put my feet on the floor, I am so grateful that I can walk. I'm so grateful that my kids are upstairs safe and sound and that I know I have them in my life. I'm grateful for just getting up and being able to brush my teeth in the morning without having to rush out of the house. It can be the simplest things, or it could be even larger things. It's really all up to you. Another way to practice gratitude is simply with a jar. If your parents have an old tomato sauce jar or applesauce jar, or you can even go to Michael's and grab a jar. And what my kids and I have done in the past is we write things that we're grateful for every day on a piece of paper, and we put that inside our gratitude jar. And then at the end of the week, at dinner one night or breakfast or whenever you want, you can open it up by yourself or with your family, and you can read the different things that you were grateful for. It's a great way to start getting yourself to think. And the last way to practice gratitude can simply by keeping a journal. I don't know how many of you kids have a journal, but a journal is a wonderful way to get your thoughts and ideas out. If you don't feel like talking to somebody else, sometimes once you start writing in a journal, you'd be amazed how good you feel. It sounds so silly, but it works so well. Because sometimes you're feeling sad and you may not even know why. And once you start writing, your mind opens up and it gets clearer as to how you're feeling. And you'll find that that first sentence could be the hardest sentence you ever wrote, but then the next thing you know, you have a whole page and you can't even believe it. One day when I was doing my gratitude journal a couple of years ago, I woke up and I was gonna write 3 things. A half hour later, I was 2 pages in. I had no idea all the things that I felt so grateful for. So my suggestion is just give it a shot. We're home, give it a try, start a new tradition in your family, and just remember that it's okay to feel sad. Remember that, and just use your sadness to help you learn about yourself. And then do something that makes you feel really good. Okay, if you guys have any questions, you know where to find me. You can just email me at the Rye Youth Council. Okay, thanks. Bye.